What's up? Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to use OpenAI to summarize our blog posts because on this website that I have here, I want to show people a couple sentences that explain what they can find either in the article, the blog post, or the video. So on the landing page of my website, I always want to have at least one article, video, and podcast episode with the description. So we're going to start with articles. So you'll see this one is called Handling Webhooks for Stripe Connect. And I've got quite a bit of text here. There's some background differences between them. I don't know why, but my code formatting doesn't work unless you refresh. Something about Turbo, I think. Anyways, I want to take all of this content and I want to pipe it into OpenAI and ask it to summarize. Now, what you'll find is if we just grab all of this content and we go over to the API playground and we say, summarize this text, and we paste in the content, you'll notice that there's too many tokens. For this model, Text DaVinci 3, we can only use up to, I think, 4,000 tokens, or this says 4,001, but roughly 4,000 tokens. And so one of the approaches for summarizing a big article like this is to recursively summarize chunks of it and then reassemble those summaries and build like a new common summary. So we're going to use the OpenAI API for summarizing. I don't know if I want to use DaVinci or one of the other cheaper models. So yeah, this is like the lowest cost model is this Ada model, and then Babbage. That's good for classifications, semantic text. Yeah, so we can play around with the different models in the API call. So I've already gone over to my API keys and grabbed my API key. I set that in my Rails credentials. The next thing I want to do is talk about how I edit these articles. And so I have a custom sort of edit view here that you have to log in to be able to see. And here I'm able to enter a title, a summary, when it was published, and then the body, which is just written in Markdown. And what I want is I want to add a button here that will take all this text, ship it off to OpenAI in chunks, get back a bunch of summaries, combine all those summaries, ship it back off, have it rewritten into just a few sentences, and then we'll use that as our summary. So the goal today is to add a button here that will take the body of our article and write a summary for us that we can put in here. And the long-term goal is to have this work across all of the articles that I have written. So right now there's 36, but I want to be able to reuse this same pattern for videos and podcasts as well. All right, let's first add a new button that will go on our summary view here. So I have an articles form, and below the summary, which I only show it on the edit view because I don't know, for reasons. Okay, so let's add a button here that says summarize. Okay, so the type here is going to be button instead of submit because we are inside the middle of a form. And what I want to do is let's actually just use a form here with the action summaries maybe, because we're going to go create a summary. So the method will be post. Yeah, okay, that works. That works. That works. And then we're going to take that out. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Okay, so this is interesting. So we are inside of another form, right? So we can't really like just write another form directly in here. But what we can do is we can move this form outside and above our other form. And then because all of the inputs are hidden, we can use the button down below to target that form that's up above. So I think we can give this form an ID, and this is going to be like summarize form or something. And then we can tell our button that we want it to work on the summarize form. I should have used input type. I don't know. Let's see if this works. So let's go first. We got to fire up our server. We're going to go to localhost 3000. We're going to go to articles, find an article, say edit, put in our password. Okay, so now we have this summarize button. So let's inspect that button. You'll notice that it is just a button, and the other form, like the summarize form, is up here. The summarize form is going to make a post request to the summaries endpoint with our authenticity token and the ID of the article. So if we click on this button, let's look in the network tab, click on the button. Okay, so nothing is happening right now. So what I think we want to do is change this from type button to submit. If we use it as type button, then we have to use JavaScript to grab on and handle the click event. Okay, so now when I click on summarize, it is actually making a request. Yeah, so this is making a post request, and it includes the authenticity token to protect us from CSRF attacks. I'm the only one who uses this page, so it's no big deal. And then it has the article ID. I think that's fine. Yeah, instead of passing just the ID, what we can do is use the globally unique identifier for that object. So if we look up the ID for Rails, yeah, so this is using global ID. We can use signed global IDs. So then we can use the global ID locator to find that object, whether it's an article or a video or a podcast episode. So yeah, so let's use toSGID, and then on our form, so on our summarize form, so article form here, instead of putting in article ID, we'll put in content ID. And then here, instead of article ID, we're going to do, what is it, toSGID? SGID, yeah. So now if we refresh our form here and take a look at what this is actually doing for us. So instead of just having the ID of it, you'll notice that now we have the name is content ID and the value is this big long string. And when you deserialize this string, I think it's base64 encoded. When you deserialize it, it will include the content type and some other things. So let's see, 64 decode. There's a bunch of base64 decoding tools online. I can never remember which one I like. So we'll paste that in and say decode. And so here what you have is, this is what it was decoded to. So you see the global ID includes the name of the application, it includes the class, and it includes the ID. When we call toSGID, we can give it purposes and when it expires and a whole bunch of other things for security. For this use case, I don't actually care about any of those other things, so we're just going to use that as is. So that should be good to go. We will need to use this locator, the global ID locator, to find that object once we get into our summarization controller. Okay, I'm wondering if we should nest content ID inside of anything or if we should just call that good. But I think that's fine for now. So we'll generate a new controller, summaries controller, and it's going to have, just going to have a create action for now. Okay, so we're going to go to our routes and we're going to add a new resources summaries only create. Okay, and then in our summaries controller, we're going to have this create action, which will look up, it's going to look up the object. So it's going to say model is global ID locator, and we're going to locate based on params content ID. That's going to give us our model. And then based on that, we want to kick off a background job that will go out and make the API calls to OpenAI. I'm like over optimizing right now and over generalizing, but I hope you're tracking with me. So now what we want to do is say something like it's going to be something like summarize job.perform later and pass in the model. And then we're going to just render JSON of like summarizing or something. I don't know, whatever. This is fine. Okay, so in practice, if we were doing this synchronously, we could swap out that input box and make sure that it's now populated again with the article's summary. But because we're going to make several API calls, we have to compile some stuff and then make some more API calls. So I don't want this to be a blocking thing. So instead, down the road, we might need to use like Turbo to refresh the page, but I guess I don't really care too much about that. But we do need to go create this summarize job. Rails G job, summarize job. And yeah, so this is going to take in the content type. So for now, we can just say, this is going to be like, I don't know, the content object. So we can say if content.is, if it's an article, then we want to do something here. We're going to summarize the body. Okay. And what I'm thinking is, I don't know if we need to do any like pre-processing step for each of these different types, but what we could do is say, okay, the text content is nil, and we'll say text content is content.body in the case of article. And then down here, we'll say something like summarize. So we'll get back we'll say summarize the text content, and we're going to get back a summary. Okay. And then summarize. So here we need to like break the content into chunks. And then we need to, summarize each chunk, combine the summaries, and then we need to re-summarize the combined summaries. Okay, so we're going to break the content into chunks. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. If we look at one of my articles, so if we say article.last.body, you'll notice that the text content, like the length for this is, I don't know, 13,000, almost 14,000 characters, right? And if we did like article body dot split on like space or like white space dot count, now we have 2,000 words or something like this, right? So what I want to do is I want to break up the body, but I don't want to break it up based on characters. But what I'm thinking is I'm considering breaking on new line, and then where there's 2 new lines, consider those are chunks, because I'm hoping that will give us a better breakdown of where the article, like how the article is segmented. So if you're curious about how to restore your local copy of Postgres from your production Heroku database, there is a video up about that, and it's been getting quite a few views lately. Article.last.body.split on new line and dot count. Okay, so 315. Okay, the bits that are code, yeah, that's another thing is I wonder if we should, I had this idea in the shower about every single code block having a button next to it that says explain this code. I think that would be pretty killer. So I don't want to make 315 API calls. So now what we need to do is we need to chunk based on something else. So now what we need to do is say, or maybe we split on 2 new lines. Let's see, what is that dot count? 85, getting closer. How about 3 new lines? 25. 25 is still a bit more than I would like. Also, when there's a heading like this, I think the headings also help break up the sections. Maybe if I do /n $. Okay, so that gives us 12 chunks. And what do those look like? Okay, so this chunk is pretty good. Conclusion, in this article, you learn how to build automations, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that is a nice chunk, okay? That is a great chunk. Here, respond immediately and then process. Okay, I think this is it. This is what we're gonna do, dot count. All right, so it's gonna make 12 API calls, not the best, but whatever, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. Okay, we're gonna take this, and that's what we're gonna drop into our summarization job. So this is us breaking into chunks. So we're assuming that each chunk is going to start with a heading. So the headings in Markdown are gonna be like pound or pound. Okay, so this is gonna give us our chunks. Now we need to iterate over our chunks. So chunks.each do chunk, or we want to map it, whatever, map. And we'll just call a summarize chunk. And this is going to give us back our summarized chunks. Okay, then let's make a new method here, summarize chunk. And this is where we're actually going to make the API call to OpenAI. So OpenAI Ruby gem. There is a Ruby OpenAI gem, and I used this on another project. Okay, so we need to add this to our bundle. And then we are going to new up a client. So we're going to go to our summarize job. We're going to new up a client so that we can make API calls. I might want to move this into some other like class or module or something, but for now we're just going to hack this together and get it started. Rails, okay, so my access token is in rails.application.credentials OpenAI, and it's called key. So that should be okay. And then we want to make an API call, and our API call is going to be, completions, I think. Yes. So we're going to use the completions API to summarize, and we need to give it a prompt, and then we need to give it the content. So this is going to be like our, so we're going to say, client complete. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. GitHub Copilot. The model, we'll start with this model. It'll be good. Prompt is going to be like, so we need to create a prompt that works with this chunk. So let's just say prompt, like chunk prompt. And our prompt is going to be, yeah, something like this. So I took a bunch of blog posts, I fed them into GPT-3, and I said, what is the writing style and tone of the author of all these different posts? And then I combined all of those into my own writing style. So I have this like CJ's writing style. Okay. So here is a bunch of things that came from my blog posts and my tone. And so what I want to do is like use that same content as part of my prompt. So act as a developer advocate, write a summary that is informative, technical, and helpful. Use a detailed and instructional writing style. In this case, because we are doing a summary, I'm going to remove with specific examples, code examples to demonstrate. Include, instead of include recommendations and warnings, I'm going to say include the most important points from the text. Use clear and concise language with a focus on explaining technical details of the integration and providing guidance for developers. Okay, the content should be neutral and avoid being overly promotional when possible. Okay, I'm not gonna add promotional content. And then I'm gonna say something like the text is, and then we'll plop the chunk. And then we're gonna say summary is, and that's where we should get back our summary or like the response from the summary. And so here for prompt, I'm gonna say chunk prompt of the chunk. And okay, what else do we need from here? We need max tokens. Okay, so max tokens. In this case, the summary, yeah, let's say 200, or let's do 256, because when we're summarizing the chunks, I want it to retain quite a bit of detail. And then when we go back and do the final summary, I actually only want 1, 2, 3 sentences that try to include as much detail as possible. All right, so we're writing a lot of code and we're not actually like testing a bunch. Yeah, so here in the response from this client completions, we're gonna get back an object that has choices in it. And each choice is gonna have some text. So let's, yeah, so what we're gonna do is, all right, so we need to like actually test this stuff out. So I'm gonna put this down here, private. I think I can do this like little one-liner thing. We'll see how that works. We're gonna make this API call to summarize a chunk. So I'm gonna reload my Rails console and try to test this out by just calling summarize job.new and then calling summarize chunk directly. So I'm gonna say summarize chunk like the dog jumped over the log or something. I don't know. Unknown keywords, model, prompt, and max tokens. Client. Oh, this needs to be inside of parameters. Okay. Okay. Nice. All right. Summarize job. Okay, so the dog jumped over the log. This text is about a dog jumping over a log. It's not helpful to developers. Perfect. Okay, nice. All right, how about summarize something about, how about the bool library is good for background jobs in Node.js. Let's see. The bool library is a Node.js module for running background jobs. It's designed for handling long-running tasks that don't need, okay, nice. So it's pulling in some other context that it already has. That's pretty cool. Okay, so now that we have those chunks, we want to combine them all. We want to concatenate all of these. We can just do like .join on new lines. And then what we want to do is take our summaries and resummarize them. Resummarize the summaries. Okay. This map is going to give us back an array. So when we call summarize, these summaries, like this part is going to give us back an array. So we might need to call flat map here so that it's a flat list of summaries. Okay, and then resummarize. So we're going to pass in the summaries. And the chunk prompt, is this going to work? So act as a developer advocate, write a summary that is informative. Okay, technical, helpful. Okay, I'm gonna do something similar, but instead of using this prompt, we're just gonna shift it just a tiny bit. So we're gonna say, act as a developer advocate, write a 2 to 3 sentence summary that is informative, technical, helpful, and okay. Use a detailed and okay, so it should be informative, technical, and helpful. Okay, whatever. Include the most important points from the text. Use clear and concise language. Okay, so it's just going to re-summarize it. So let's see how this one goes. And then the max tokens here, I think we can make it fewer. Let's stay with 256 for now and see what we get back. And then again, we'll join these. I don't think there's gonna be multiple choices. I'm not actually sure when this gives you back multiple or not. Okay, maybe because I'm not passing like top K or something, then I only get one result. So that should be all right, but okay, so let's see if we're ready to do this whole thing. So if we summarize jobs, we're going to perform on the content. The text content starts out as nil. If it's an article, we're going to grab the body and we're going to call summarize with that article's body. And summarize, oh, you know what we should do is we don't want to use article.last here. We want to use content.body.split on new line with that, yeah. Okay, so then here what we want to do is chunks is going to be text content. Oh, wait, hold on. Text content. Yeah, I think we're going to want to break each type of content up differently, maybe. So let's just say we're going to pass in the chunks. So this is going to be content.body.split. There we go. Okay, so this becomes our chunks. Okay. And then we don't need to do this. And then we go through each of our chunks. We flat map, we summarize, we re-summarize. All right, so let's spend some money. Every time you make an API call to OpenAI, it is going to use some of your tokens, which does cost money. So let's open this up and we're going to say summarize job.perform now article.last. And okay. Okay, let's just run it and see what happens. All right, summarize text content. Oh, so this should be chunks. Oh, okay, it's doing something. Performing summarize job enqueued with this global ID. Again, this is actually using the same sort of global ID as what we saw on the UI. Also, I'm remembering that in order for us to do this, I have to have Redis running. So let's say Redis server. So fire up Redis, allow it to do stuff. And then we also need to have what are we using here for our worker? Sidekick. Bundle exec sidekick. Okay. All right, did our worker start up over here? Oh, what? Look at this. Okay, so it did summarize it. To get started with Stripe Connect, you first need to create a platform account. A connected account is another type of Stripe account. Okay, so this is actually pretty damn good, but it's too long. So let's decrease the number of tokens here when we finally summarize. So let's say max tokens is 100. And yeah, so when we do our re-summarization, include the most important points from the text. How about summarize? Okay, reload, and we'll rerun this, passing in the article. Okay, we should probably put some debugging where it'll print out, okay, it's processing stuff or whatever. And yeah, so our worker, or like our, oh, wait, what? Okay, so bin dev, there we go. All right, I don't know why I killed bin dev, but our worker should come up and recognize that it has stuff to work on. Okay, there it goes. All right, developers can use webhooks to automate actions that occur in their Stripe account. There are two types of webhook endpoints, direct an account and connect webhook endpoints. So I'm gonna have to edit some of this. The most significant difference between direct and account, okay, also this is numbered, right? So it's giving me a sort of a numbered list. That's not what I wanted, so summarize the important points from the text as a simple paragraph for a list for display on a list of articles. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work, but we'll see. So reload. It's so good at just like figuring out semantic meaning of things and then backing into answers. It just kind of, it's mind-blowing. All right, so to get started with Stripe, you'll need a platform account and a connected account. A connected account is another Stripe account. Okay, there's 2 types of webhook endpoints and 2 types of web. Okay. That is not a great summary. Let's simplify our prompt a little bit. And then when we join our, okay, so let's do some debugging here. So we're going to print out our summaries. And then let's also print out our chunks. Okay, and yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, so reload. All right, so this is our, what is this? This is our chunks. Okay, did you know that you can build automations and triggers that happen, blah, blah, blah. It's thinking. Yeah, maybe we should also in our summarize chunk, we'll say puts summarizing chunk, and then we'll say puts got response or something. All right. Okay, this is an amazing summary. This is an amazing summary. I would use this right here. Okay, so now that we've got that going on, now what we want to do, like once we get the summary back, we want to store that back into our content on the summary. So an article object has a summary text field, a podcast episode has a, what is it called? Has a description, and it has a formatted summary. I'm thinking we add a summary field for podcast episode, and then for videos do have a summary already. Okay. We'll come back and add that to podcast later, but for now, what I wanted to check was, can I just, in my job here, can I just say content.update summary is summary? And I should be able to. And let's also check, like, yeah, I'm wondering if we should say only updated if it doesn't have a summary. I almost want to have like a force thing, like skip over. Yeah, okay. We should do that in a higher level thing. So this should be fine. I'm going to use update bang in case something fails. And here we go. So we'll say reload. Actually, let's do it from the browser. So we'll refresh our page here. And let's actually go back to our articles, go to, yeah, taking a cut with Stripe Connect. And then we'll go to edit and click summarize. And this should hit this controller, perform the job. All right, let's just see what happens. Click summarize. And did anything happen? Form responses must redirect to another location. So we got an error back. Chunks flat map. Oh, what? Why does it? Okay, so it thinks that chunks is nil because it is here. Does it not think we're on an article? Summaries controller. It says form responses must redirect to another location. I don't know. So let's just say redirect to model. I think that should maybe work. Summarize. Why is the model nil? Uh-oh. P params content ID. Okay. Click on summarize. Posting to summaries. Here's the content ID. Here's the whole thing. And maybe I'm doing this wrong. So can I not go? Let's see. Global ID locator.locate ID. Nil. What? Okay. Did I not read the instructions here well enough? To global ID. Oh, locate signed. Is that what I need? Let's see. Boom. All right. So that's what I got that wrong. So we need to locate the signed version. Oh yeah. And then render or redirect to model. And all right, so we're going to go back over to our controller here, refresh the page, click on summarize again. We got redirected back to this. And all right, so now we can go back to edit and see, no, our summary field is not populated yet. That's probably because, okay, yeah, here, summarizing chunk, summarizing, okay. Yeah, so it's still working. And so now if we refresh the page, boom, look at this. Use application fees when you need to query. Okay, so this came out as bullets again. So let's see. I don't know why it's bullets and not like a paragraph. It's probably because I said, okay, let's just remove that. And write a 2 to 3 sentence summary paragraph. Write a simple summary paragraph. In this article, you'll learn how to, and then I'm going to leave that blank so that it will start with that summary and then it should complete it. I don't know. Let's see. So let's refresh the page. I'm going to wipe this out and we're going to click summarize and then we'll look at our logs. Okay, so let's refresh and see if we got a new summary. Still no summary yet. Refresh. Oh, that's on the public version. So edit. Okay, here we go. To take commission on payments. Okay, this is pretty good. Take commission on payments flowing through a Stripe integration. You can use direct or destination charges, withholding a small payment when transferring funds to a connected account, and yeah, or using account debits. You can also collect recurring payments from your users, including an application fee parameter. Wow, this is pretty good. All right, so then, yeah, so I'm going to say submit. And now when I go back to my articles, under taking a cut, it now has this nice summary about what the article is about. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to have to edit each of them and clean them up, but I can use Grammarly to help me with that. And so, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the state that these are in. So that was like a cool way to use OpenAI and Recursively. I think, yeah, somewhere out there on the internet, there is guides for this process called Recursively sizing a big document. So head over and search for that if this is something that you're trying to do. Cool. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate your time and attention, and we'll see you in the next one.